The lie didn't hurt the most. It was how easily people believed it, how quickly they chose sides, without ever hearing hers.
I'm going to tell you about a woman named Alma. And the moment she walked into a room, that already decided who she was. Stay with me. You're going to want to hear this.
The worst part was not the lie. It was the way people believed it so easily. By the time Alma walked into the dining room that Sunday evening, 3 relatives had already looked at her with that soft, fake pity people use when they think they know your shame. Manuel sat at the head of the long table in his father's house, one hand around a glass of sparkling water, the other resting calmly on the polished wood like he owned truth itself. Blair sat 2 seats away from him in a cream dress, quiet, polished, careful. Nobody said anything at first, but Alma could feel it in the room. The story had already gone ahead of her. Alma had always been the steady one behind Manuel's shining name, the woman who left her own fast-rising career in corporate finance to help build the soft parts of a hard family business, the woman who made order look effortless, the woman who carried work nobody praised because praise usually goes to whoever speaks the loudest. She came from a respected Nigerian-American family in Maryland, the kind that believed dignity was not in noise, but in how well you held yourself when life turned cruel. When she married Manuel Cortez, son of a wealthy real estate family in Virginia, people said it was a powerful match. Alma was brilliant, calm, organized. Manuel was charming, handsome, and born into money so old it moved like confidence through every room he entered. In the early years, Alma believed she was building a real home. The Cortez family owned apartment buildings, shopping plazas, and luxury townhomes across 3 states. Manuel liked to describe himself as the engine of the business. He said he had vision. He said he knew how to close deals. He said people trusted him because he could make fast choices under pressure. Alma did not argue. She was not raised to compete with her husband in public. Instead, she handled vendor calls, tenant complaints, overdue taxes, payroll confusion, insurance renewals, charity dinners, school schedules for their 2 children, and the invisible labor of making a rich family look smooth from the outside. When a property manager resigned without notice, Alma stepped in quietly for 6 weeks and kept 4 buildings running. When one of Manuel's risky renovation deals nearly caused a cash flow disaster, Alma stayed up for 3 nights, reorganized payments, called lenders, and prevented penalties that would have embarrassed the family. When Manuel forgot his mother's 60th birthday guest list and blamed the assistant, it was Alma who fixed it before the guests arrived. When his father's medical bills were delayed in insurance processing, Alma solved that too. She knew passwords, deadlines, names of staff children, security codes, lease dates, charity pledges, and the exact tone needed to calm angry people. But the strangest thing about constant work is this: if you do it well enough, people begin to think it does itself. As the years passed, Manuel grew louder. His money grew, but so did his need for applause. He liked rooms where people laughed too hard at his jokes. He liked being seen as the son who modernized the family business. He liked telling stories where he was the only one sweating, thinking, fixing, rescuing. Alma noticed that each version of his success had less and less of her inside it. Then Blair arrived. She first came into their lives through the family foundation, where she was hired as a public relations consultant for a redevelopment project in Baltimore. She was pretty in a clean, expensive way, with the kind of smile that could look harmless even when it was calculating. She knew how to flatter powerful women without threatening them. She knew how to make older men feel relevant and younger men feel admired. Blair was not rude to Alma. That would have been too obvious. Instead, she was soft, respectful, curious. She called Alma elegant. She asked about the children. She said things like, "I don't know how you do it all." At first, Alma thought nothing of her. Then she noticed how often Blair's name came up. Manuel mentioned her at breakfast, at dinner, in the car, during events. Blair had fresh ideas. Blair understood branding. Blair thought the family business needed a more human image. Blair said younger tenants wanted emotional connection, not just square footage. Even Manuel's mother, Celeste, who usually found fault with every woman under 40, seemed strangely impressed. One night, after a fundraiser, Alma watched Manuel leaning close to Blair near the terrace doors. Nothing dramatic happened. No touching, no stolen kiss. Just the kind of private laughter married women know too well. The kind that says, "We have a small world inside this room, and you are outside it." Alma asked him about Blair in the car. Manuel laughed. "Please don't start. She works with us, that's all." I didn't say anything dramatic. But you were about to. Alma, you always do this thing where you make ordinary work relationships look suspicious. She turned and looked out the window. He had a way of moving guilt toward her so smoothly that if she did not hold on tightly to her own mind, she would begin apologizing for wounds he caused. The next months were worse, not because he became careless, but because he became strategic. He started planting ideas. At dinners with relatives, he would sigh and say, "Alma has been tired lately." At business lunches, he would joke, "If I don't push things myself, nothing moves in my house." To his mother, he said Alma had checked out. To his sister Elena, he said Alma no longer cared to help with family responsibilities. To the staff, he began copying Blair on emails Alma once handled. Then, when deadlines slipped because Blair did not know the systems, he would shake his head and say, "This is what happens when I don't stay on top of things." The lie began small. Then it got a wardrobe, a car, and a schedule. By Thanksgiving, relatives were saying Alma seemed distant. By Christmas, Manuel's aunt asked if she was still adjusting to motherhood, though her youngest child was already 7. "Alma, darling, you should delegate better. People are beginning to notice you're not as involved." Alma almost laughed. Not involved? She had coordinated Celeste's medical appointments for 5 months because Celeste's own son kept forgetting. She had arranged private tutoring for Elena's son after his suspension. She had handled 3 leaking roofs, 2 staff resignations, a tax appeal, 1 emergency plumbing disaster, and the foundation gala seating chart in the last 10 weeks. She was so involved that her back hurt from carrying a world nobody admitted was heavy. But by then she understood something important. Truth by itself is not enough in a rich family. Documentation is. The moment everything shifted came on a rainy Tuesday in February. Alma had gone to Manuel's office to drop off a folder he needed for a refinancing meeting. The receptionist, distracted on the phone, waved her through. Alma opened the conference room door and found Blair inside, not working, not reviewing documents, but adjusting Manuel's tie while he smiled down at her. The room froze. Blair stepped back first. Manuel's face hardened, not with shame but with irritation, as if Alma had interrupted his comfort. "You should knock," he said. Alma looked at him for a long second. "In your office? It's still a room with a door." Blair picked up her tablet. "I'll give you both a moment." After she left, Manuel dropped the smile and went straight to attack. "I'm tired of your energy, Alma. Always suspicious. Always tense. This is why people say you don't help anymore. You sit around imagining drama while I actually work." That was the sentence. Not the affair. Not even the disrespect. It was the lie spoken with such confidence.
This is where most people break. Not when they're hurt, but when somebody confidently lies about them and everybody believes them. And the worst part, you start questioning yourself. Watch what she does next.
You sit around. Alma stood there in her navy coat, rain still on her sleeves, and felt something inside her become cold and clear. Not broken, not shattered, just clear. She placed the folder on the table. "Okay," she said quietly. "Understood." He frowned, almost disappointed she had not cried. That night, while the children slept, Alma opened her laptop at the kitchen island and began. At first it was simple. She created folders: personal, household, business support, family care, school, medical, vendor management, event planning, financial corrections, crisis handling. She searched emails going back 6 years. She pulled calendar invites, voice notes, text messages, payment confirmations, draft contracts, revised budgets, forwarded instructions, and scanned receipts. She made a timeline. then another, then a spreadsheet showing hours, dates, actions, and outcomes. She did not fabricate. She did not exaggerate. She documented. Every time Manuel had sent, "Can you handle this?" Every time Celeste had written, "Please don't tell anyone, but I need your help." Every late-night text from property managers. Every document Alma corrected before signatures. Every school emergency she handled while Manuel posted smiling photos from networking events. Every foundation meeting Blair claimed credit for after Alma did the prep work. Every account she balanced. Every staff problem she solved, every family duty she carried. The more she gathered, the more shocking it became even to her. Not because she did not know she worked hard, but because she had never seen the full shape of her labor in one place. It was enormous. For 3 weeks, Alma said very little. She moved through the house with controlled calm. She packed lunches, attended the children's school performance, answered emails, paid bills, and smiled when needed. Manuel mistook her quiet for defeat. Blair, now bolder, began attending family lunches. Celeste praised her taste. Manuel's father, Rafael, mostly stayed silent, the way older men sometimes do when they sense a storm, but hope good furniture will survive it. Then came the invitation. Celeste announced a Sunday family meeting at the main house in McLean. "We need to discuss responsibilities," she said over speakerphone, her tone formal. "There has been concern about imbalance and lack of support." Alma knew immediately what it meant. This was not a meeting, it was a stage. They wanted to sit her down in front of siblings, cousins, and elders and gently shame her into accepting the story already told about her. Manuel likely expected tears or defensive anger. Either one would help him. Angry women are easy to dismiss. Crying women are easier. Alma printed her file. Not one file. 3 binders. White, clean, labeled, tabbed. On Sunday evening, she dressed simply in a dark green dress and pearl earrings her mother had given her on her wedding day. She looked so composed that even her daughter Nina asked, "Mommy, are you going somewhere important?" "Yes," Alma said, kissing her forehead. "Very important." At the house, the family was already seated. Manuel sat near his father. Blair, shockingly, had also been invited, sitting slightly behind Celeste as though she were now some trusted advisor. Alma noticed it, registered it, and let the insult pass through her without touching her balance. Celeste began, "We are all here because family must tell itself hard truths. Alma, people are worried. Manuel has been carrying too much. There is a feeling that you have withdrawn from your duties at home and around the business." A cousin nodded sadly. Elena crossed her legs and avoided Alma's eyes. Blair looked down, pretending discomfort. Manuel leaned back with his practiced expression of reluctant burden. "I didn't want it to come to this," he said. "But I can't keep pretending everything is fine. I've been covering for Alma for a long time. She's been unmotivated, disconnected, honestly, lazy." The word landed in the room like something dirty. Alma looked at him, not angry, not shocked, just looking. Manuel mistook silence for weakness and kept going. He said he had carried both marriage and business. He said Alma no longer supported the household. He said staff had complained. He said she avoided responsibility. He said Blair had stepped in on several projects because Alma simply wasn't available. He even laughed once softly and said, "I don't say this to embarrass her. I say it because maybe hearing it from family will help." That was when Rafael finally looked up. And that was when Alma placed the first binder on the table. The sound of it was small, but it changed the room. "May I speak now?" she asked. Nobody answered immediately. Then Rafael said, "Yes." Alma slid copies toward Celeste and Rafael, then one toward Elena. Manuel's smile faded a little. Blair's fingers tightened around her glass. "This is a record," Alma said, "of my work over the last 6 years. It includes household operations, family support, administrative tasks for the business, foundation preparation, emergency response, staff coordination, and undocumented labor I was told did not count because I did it quietly." No one moved. She opened her copy and began. Not with opinion, with dates. March 14th, 2 years ago. Manuel forgot the insurance renewal deadline for the Arlington property. I corrected it within 12 hours. Email chain, page 12. She turned a tab. August 3rd last year. Celeste needed help resolving private hospital billing issues. I handled the payment dispute and reprocessed the claim. Pages 21 through 24. Another tab. September through November, vendor coordination for the Georgetown renovation, after the project manager resigned. 43 calls, 19 emails, 6 payment corrections. Pages 30 to 47. She did not rush. She did not tremble. She spoke like a woman who had already cried in private and had now arrived in public with receipts. Each claim Manuel had made, Alma answered with evidence. He said she did not help with business. She showed emails where he forwarded urgent tasks to her at midnight. He said she abandoned family duties. She showed calendars full of school runs, medical visits, and event planning. He said Blair stepped in because Alma was unavailable. Alma showed documents she had prepared before Blair ever entered the conversation. He said staff complained. Alma produced messages from staff thanking her for solving problems Manuel ignored for weeks. The silence deepened. You could hear glasses touch the table. You could hear someone clear their throat and regret it immediately. Then Alma opened the second binder. This section, she said, covers statements made about me to family members and third parties. Manuel sat forward. What is this? What is? It is what happens, Alma said calmly. When a person lies repeatedly and forgets that phones, emails, and people leave trails. Celeste looked offended. Alma. No, let her speak, Raphael said, and for the first time his voice carried real authority. Alma continued. She read a text Manuel had sent Elena. Alma doesn't do much these days. I'm basically alone in this marriage. Then she showed the timestamp from that same afternoon, when he had asked Alma to resolve a payroll issue, pick up his father's medication, and review a lease amendment before 5 p.m. She showed a message to Blair where Manuel wrote, I need you visible in these meetings because Alma has become dead weight. Then she showed that the presentation Blair used at that meeting had been drafted by Alma and emailed 2 days earlier. Blair went pale. That is not what it looks like, she said quietly. Alma turned to her. I haven't started with what it looks like. Then she opened the third binder. This one was thinner, more dangerous. It contained the affair. Not dramatic pictures, not hidden camera nonsense. Alma had no interest in humiliation theater. What she had were travel overlaps, expense entries, hotel bookings, duplicate reimbursements, and messages that crossed professional lines so clearly that even people desperate to pretend would fail. A spa charge during a tenant strategy retreat. A weekend suite booked under Blair's initials during the same dates Manuel claimed to be in Philadelphia. Late-night messages about missing each other. A forwarded reservation email sent accidentally to Alma's shared printer account because Manuel had forgotten it was still linked. No one spoke. Blair's mouth opened, then closed. Manuel stood up. This is inappropriate. Alma looked at him steadily. Calling me lazy in front of your family while using my labor to protect your image was inappropriate. He pointed at the binders. You've been spying. I've been living, she said, and apparently keeping your life together. That one landed hard. Even Elena looked away from her brother. Celeste tried once more to rescue the scene. Marriage is complicated. We should not reduce it to documents. Alma turned to her with a level expression. You called this meeting to discuss my value. I brought records of it. Raphael reached for his copy again. He flipped pages slowly, then more quickly, his face changing with each section. At page 38, he stopped. At page 52, he removed his glasses. At page 61, he looked at Manuel like he was seeing not a son, but a liability. How much of the business administration has Alma been handling? He asked. Manuel said nothing. Raphael asked again, sharper. Alma answered. A significant amount, informally, without title, salary, or acknowledgement. Raphael looked at the spreadsheets, then at the supporting emails. And these cash flow corrections? I made them after Manuel approved disorganized contractor payouts. He looked at his son. Is that true? Manuel's jaw tightened. This is exaggerated. Raphael slapped the binder shut. The sound shocked everyone. Is it true? Manuel did not answer quickly enough. And in families like theirs, delay is confession. Raphael stood. For years, this woman has been carrying work you claimed as your own. And while doing that, you told us she was lazy. Nobody moved. Blair looked like she wanted the floor to open. Celeste's face had gone stiff with embarrassment, but even she knew the current had changed. The room no longer belonged to Manuel. It belonged to the file. Alma gathered her hands in her lap. She did not smile. Victory was too small a word for what she felt. This was not joy. It was release. Then she said the sentence that stayed with everyone long after. I stayed quiet because I believed truth would be obvious. I was wrong. In this family, truth needs folders. For a moment, nobody breathed. Then Elena whispered, "My God." Raphael asked Alma very carefully, "What do you want?" It was the first real question anyone had asked her all evening. Alma had thought about it for days. I want my labor formally acknowledged. I want access removed from anyone using my work without permission. I want a review of all family business support functions I have handled without title. And I want space to decide what I'm doing about my marriage. Manuel laughed once, desperate and ugly. So this was all a setup? Alma stood. No, the setup was the lie. This is the response. Then she picked up only her handbag and left the binders there on the table like mirrors nobody wanted, but everybody needed. Behind her, no one called her lazy again. By the next morning, Raphael had ordered an internal operational review. Blair's consulting access was suspended pending clarification of boundaries. Celeste sent Alma a message with no apology, only this: we should talk when emotions settle. Alma did not reply. Manuel called 14 times. She answered none. At her own house, she sat in the breakfast room while sunlight moved slowly across the marble floor. Nina was eating strawberries. Her son Micah was arguing with his cereal. The normal sounds of children filled the air, and Alma felt for the first time in months that her body was no longer bracing for impact. Her phone buzzed again. Manuel, then a message. You embarrassed me. Alma looked at the screen for a long second before typing back. No, Manuel. I corrected the record. She put the phone down and returned to her coffee. Outside, the morning was clear. Inside, the silence was finally honest. Manuel did not understand it at first. Not really. In his mind, the meeting had been a mistake, an overreaction, something that could still be smoothed over if everyone just calmed down and stopped looking too closely. But the problem with truth is this: once people see it clearly, they cannot unsee it. The next few days were quiet in a way that felt different, not peaceful, careful. Raphael moved quickly. Emails started going out. Access logs were requested. Payment approvals were traced. Calendar histories were reviewed. And for the first time in years, Manuel found himself being asked simple questions he could not answer cleanly. Who handled this approval? Why was this delayed? Who resolved this issue? Normally, he would have said, I did. Now there were records. Now there were timestamps. Now there were threads that led back to Alma. Blair stopped coming to the office by Friday. Her consulting role was described as paused, then reevaluated, then unnecessary. No one announced it, but everyone understood. Celeste, who had always valued control over truth, tried to repair the surface. She called Alma twice. The first time, Alma let it ring. The second time, she answered, Alma, darling, things got out of hand. Families say things they don't mean. Alma sat by the window, watching the trees move slowly in the wind. No, she said calmly. Families reveal things they've been thinking. There was a pause on the line. Celeste tried again. We should not let one moment destroy years of... It wasn't one moment, Alma replied. It was years. The moment just made it visible. Celeste did not have an answer for that. For the first time since Alma had known her, she ended the call without winning. Meanwhile, Manuel tried a different approach. He showed up at the house, not angry this time. Soft, careful. He stood in the doorway like a man who had suddenly realized he was not as powerful as he thought. "Can we talk?" Alma looked at him, really looked this time without the weight of loyalty clouding her judgment. It was strange. He looked smaller. Not physically, just smaller. "We are talking," she said. He stepped inside slowly. "You didn't have to do all that in front of everyone." Alma tilted her head slightly. "What part bothered you most?" she asked. "The truth or the audience?" He exhaled, frustrated. "You made me look like a liar." She held his gaze. "You made you look like a liar," she said quietly. "I just stopped protecting it." That one landed deeper than anything she had said before. He ran a hand through his hair. "Okay, fine, I messed up, but we can fix this. We've built too much together to throw it away like this." Alma did not respond immediately. She let the silence sit between them, because silence, she had learned, forces truth to stand without support. "Manuel," she said finally, "what exactly do you think we built?" He frowned. "A life. A life. A family. A business." "No," she interrupted gently. "I built structure. You built image." He stared at her, and for once he had nothing to say. The children's laughter drifted in from the next room. Real. Unaffected. Alma softened slightly when she heard it. Then she looked back at him. "I'm not making any final decisions today," she said. "But things will not go back to how they were." He nodded slowly as if he had expected that. "Can I at least stay?" he asked. "Try to fix things?" Alma considered the question carefully. Then she answered in a way that surprised even him. "You can stay," she said, "but not as someone who controls the story." He swallowed. "What does that mean?" "It means," Alma said, "everything is now visible. No more hidden labor. No more quiet corrections. No more rewriting history in rooms where she was not present. If something needed to be done, it would be named. If something was broken, it would be acknowledged. If he spoke, she would speak too. Not louder, just clearly. And that was something Manuel had never learned how to fight. Weeks passed. The audit results came back. Not dramatic enough to cause scandal, but clear enough to shift power. Raphael restructured parts of the business. Roles were defined. Responsibilities were documented. And for the first time, Alma's work was given a formal title, access level, and authority. Not as a favor, as a correction. Blair disappeared completely. No farewell, no explanation, just absence. People who had once praised her suddenly spoke about professional boundaries and misjudgments. Alma did not comment. She had learned something important. When truth arrives, it does not need help to spread. It carries itself. At home, things were different, not perfect, but honest. Manuel spoke less, listened more. Sometimes he caught himself before exaggerating a story. Sometimes he failed. But now, failure had consequences. Not shouting, not drama, just correction, and that was harder to escape. One evening, as the sun set behind the house, Alma sat on the patio with a cup of tea. Nina leaned against her shoulder. "Mommy," she said softly, "why were people saying you were lazy?" Alma smiled faintly, because even children hear things adults think they hide. "Sometimes," Alma said, "people say things that are not true because it helps them feel bigger." Nina frowned. "But you're not lazy." "I know," Alma said. Nina looked up at her. "Did you tell them?" Alma looked out at the fading light. "Yes," she said. "I showed them." Nina seemed satisfied with that, and went back to her drawing. Alma sat there a little longer, thinking. Not about revenge, not about winning, but about clarity. About the quiet strength it takes to stop explaining yourself and start presenting facts. She realized something that changed her completely. Noise fades, emotion passes, but records remain. And in a world where people rewrite stories to protect themselves, the person who keeps the truth organized never has to raise their voice. Alma took a slow sip of her tea, calm, steady, unbothered, because now, if anyone ever tried again, she wouldn't argue, she wouldn't chase, she wouldn't defend, she would simply open the file and let the silence do the rest.
Alma didn't raise her voice once. She didn't need to. She just came prepared. You see, sometimes it's not the lie that does the damage. It's how easily people believe it. If this story hits you, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. And let me know in the comments section. Did Alma do the right thing? I'll see you in the next story.